think it's a system now. Oh God, it's a system. Everything is a system, and systems work with or without God.
So recently, Breakfast Club, Tye Tribbet, famous gospel artist. Everybody's been focusing on this little clip he said on the Breakfast Club about the church being whack and the church is not God, and focusing that part of it. Shout out to Kev on stage.
Okay, what he was saying is a lot of times pastors are not called. A lot of times churches are family business, so they're just passed down. The person who's in charge isn't the right person. They're just the person that was next in line. Okay? Do you disagree with that? Okay. And yes, he's talking generally, and a lot of times
Go watch the whole video, right? That was a bad clip, because what he was talking about in regards to people not being called to be ministers shouldn't be in the pulpit. They just follow the system, and now they feel they're called by God. Not saying I totally agree or disagree, but I get what he was saying. But a different point people should focus on was the aspect of when they talked about why do you go to church and this and that.
What do y'all look for when you go to a church? What do y'all look for? Like you said, everyone don't touch your soul, don't minister to your spirit.
It's not about what I look for, it's about what I feel.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
It's a feeling, you know what I mean? Like you just,
I know what you mean.
Some people just speak to your soul. Like, you know, I think.
It boiled down. Now, Jess Hilarious, I'm going to leave you out of this conversation now that she's watching. But everything was feeling. Everything was feeling, and Tye Tribbet, you decided to step in the role in the office of pastor. There should have been some point where you mentioned that the point of going to church is to hear God's word. That wasn't highlighted at all. It wasn't highlighted. I feel like he's speaking into my life. Yo, your life can be spoken into on ratchet things. You can leave somewhere feeling good hearing ratchet things. Yo, Tyrone got robbed. Man, he been robbing people for decades. Man, about time someone got him back. That's real. That's real. And you feel justified, like, yeah, man, I don't feel bad at all, man. I'm glad he got what karma, you know, you reap what you sow. Start trying to use fake biblical context and things. It was just funny. And then when they listed pastors off, they listed a slew of heretics.
I hate going to church as a kid, right? Because Baptist church, you're staying there 4 or 5 hours. Especially if somebody's getting baptized, you got to dress up. So it made me not necessarily love it, right? Mm-hmm. And I noticed that with my kids, when I took them to church, it became a chore. Like, I got to get dressed. I got this. But now, on Sunday morning, we can cook breakfast together, sit down on the couch and watch it, and it's comfortable. They ain't got to get dressed. Mommy ain't got to do the kids' hair. Yeah. They ain't got to make sure things are right because they got to sit in nah, it's not that at all. It's all about the church, which I prefer. So, yeah, we go online. You know what I mean? Right. And I don't have to just stick to one church. You know, as a kid growing up in New York, we always had to go to Brooklyn to grandma's church. There was no option. It was let me try something else. Now on TV, one day I can turn Creflo Dollar, next day I can turn Report, next day I can turn, and I can get different feelings, and my kids can as well. So I prefer that as well too.
Why you don't go, Jess?
He was like I said, remove Jess Hilarious. I don't want to make it. I don't know her church. I don't know what, but he's talking about people who deny the Trinity. He mentions, one of them at the envy or trial, I could turn to Creflo Dollar. Really, like, as a pastor, like, you know there's key essentials that have to be expressed. Like, and I know these are probably your boys, your friends, or same network, or in the same community where you really can't go bad on them. But you still can focus on, you have to make sure you pick a church that is being faithful and espousing God's word. It has to be. They're talking about time limit in the church versus short time. Don't be wrong. I go to Lutheran church. We out of there in an hour. I go a lot. Like if I show up at 8, I'm on the West Coast. I'm home in time to watch the football game. So I understand the time thing, but that's not the basis of me going or not going to church. You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm not gonna say, I'm going to church because I know I can make it to watch the game later on. No. I'm going to church to hear God's word. We got to keep the main thing the main thing. It was just funny how, I mean, I get it. You're there, he's there as an artist, but you're still, the office of pastor isn't a part-time gig. It's not something you can just turn off and say, yo, I'm only a pastor these hours right here, right now. I'm a full-time musician. Because he is a musician. He makes hits that people love. He probably was there more so for his Grammy nominations. Salute to that man on that. But when the topic of the church comes up, Bro, you're a pastor today, yesterday, an hour ago, an hour later. That's just a fact. You have to be able to point people in the right direction when it comes to what to expect at church. And then you don't even mention the aspect, because I guess his church now is an online church, right? Do we need a building? God's not a building. What happened to fellowship of the saints? What happened to actually being a part of a community, motivating others to good works? Not just you, the pastor, but also them working in each other's lives. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. People have to start taking their call to be a pastor or the office of pastor more serious when they're on these platforms or in the world in general. About you being a pastor, I found this hilarious. Not even in a good way, but there is something that people should think about.
So it's not the belief, it's the behavior.
Yes. I think yeah.
Sometimes it's the behavior of the messenger.
What you mean?
Somebody will say, I have an assignment, right? Like you said, I have an assignment. And maybe your assignment is to help Jess in her situation and her problems. And maybe you do. But then you as a person is not coming from the perspective of somebody giving the assignment. You see what I'm saying? So let's say if you're here to help Jess in her life and whatever it may be, but you cheating on your wife with Charlemagne. It's I look at it as
that's his example.
That's an example.
That's not gonna be the thing.
But I look at it as you're giving the assignment, but the person giving the assignment is not living the life.
I disagree with that.
But that's what
A little bit.
That's what makes me hard to see, because if you're giving the assignment, but you're not living right. It's like, are you really giving the
But
assignment? or are you
nobody
bullshitting
around
me?
Jesus was living right.
That's all I'm about to say. Like, was your teacher living algebra? Like, you know what I'm saying? Can somebody get? No, I'm saying.
DJ Envy made a point where he was talking about, I don't really feel comfortable sometimes because I don't know who's speaking. Like they're preaching this holiness, right? But they're living a certain type of way. Now,
Can somebody give you information that'll help you?
Yes.
That's
Yes.
still flawed.
That's still, yeah.
Right, but sometimes it's like, is that information true? If you out there selling crack every night, giving crack to our youth, you might be
I
helping
feel
me
you.
and saving me, but then you're killing 100 others. It's like, is
It's
that
hard.
coming from God, or is that coming from a negative, an evil, the devil? You see what I'm saying? So it's kind
I
of hard
got you. It's hard to trust it.
separate and trust it.
But that's where discernment comes in,
still
right?
playing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you need the spirit as well. You know what I'm saying? That's what I think.
I'm not going to sit up here and talk works righteousness, nothing like that. Okay? As a pastor, you should have pointed and stood on the Timothy passages, the qualifications that God set forth to be a pastor. And if someone's out of line with that system, I guess you would say, those rules God put in force, then you're right. Like, if you're not above reproach, if you're not, it goes deep. DJ Envy had a point, and you can't gloss over that. But I just wish that he would have focused on, God's word more so, because it got loosey-goosey and people are picking out clips and focusing on you hating the church. You got to be careful with how you present things, because I know that wasn't your goal. Even you later on, I'm not saying the church isn't whack. I'm not saying the church is whack. I'm saying, I get it's hard to do. And I'm not saying I'm good at it. Trust me. But it's an interview. You have plenty of chances later on to clean it up and focus back on God's word. Anyhow, Whitmer Project, just be careful, man. I don't want him to be misrepresented on that church of the system or institution, because he really wasn't talking about the church right then, even though later on it kind of seemed like he was. He was more so talking about the aspect of people being called to pastor, like thinking they're called, and really getting into it for the money and this, and they more so just went this route and attained it, but it really wasn't in them. They had the wrong motives for wanting to become a pastor and becoming a pastor. Anyhow, Whitmer Project.